Halloween, right? Some hate it, and some love it. I personally love it, and I anxiously wait for the arrival of October 31st every year. I live in a relatively small town in England. I won't name it as you probably won't have heard of it, and it doesn't even matter anyway. Everyone knows each other, and Halloween is probably the town's most treasured holiday. We don't care much for Christmas. I know how that may sound, coming from a person whose country is widely known to revel in the Christmas festivities. But it's the God-honest truth. You should know something first. I've been trick-or-treating in the same area for about 5 years. Nothing ever changes and everything always stays the same. For reasons that are unknown to me, this year was different. The streets were quieter than normal due to the situation we find ourselves in. I wanted to trick-or-treat though. Global pandemic be damned. I usually go with my mates, Susie, Tabitha, and William. This year we decided to go as characters from Stranger Things. Halloween's no fun without a bit of dress-up. That's universal knowledge, right? Anyway, we began our nightly adventures as normal, with no incident. The streets were quiet, but not the sort of deathly silence that you feel in your soul. It was a human kind of silence, the kind where you know there are others around you, even if they're not actually there. What I'm trying to say is everything was ordinary. We frequented the same houses we always have, saw the same Halloween decorations, saw the same kids. It was a perfect Halloween night. Until we found the house. It's quite hard for me to remember how we actually found it, or when we noticed that it shouldn't have been there, or whether it was actually ever really there. We were walking, talking, and joking away, stuffing our faces with our loot of candy. I was a little ahead of everyone else, wanting to get to the next house, when I suddenly stopped in the middle of the road. A giant house loomed ahead of me. It was threatening and alluring both at the same time. I wanted to go in, and I didn't. My friend stopped behind me. "What are you looking at, you twat?" came the jesting voice of Susie. "Don't you see it?" I asked. "See what? Are you hallucinating from all the sugar?" asked William, laughing. "There's nothing but an empty field, Lucy. You know that? That field has always been there," said Tabitha. "Yeah, but was that house always there?" asked Susie. She was standing next to me now, staring up at the house, her eyes hypnotized. "What the fuck are you two talking about?" "Stop fucking around, it's not funny," said William. "Come closer, both of you." I was still transfixed, unable to open my mouth to utter a sound. They both stepped closer, the hesitation in their steps painfully audible and apparent. I felt Tabitha's shoulder brush mine ever so slightly. I managed to sneak a glance at her, and I knew then that she saw it too. I took a step backwards and the house disappeared. I took a step forward and the house reappeared again. It was like some fucked up alternate reality or a rip in the space-time continuum. I knew what was happening was not possible. It couldn't be possible. All of a sudden, Susie just legged it towards the house. I'd never seen anyone run so fucking fast. It startled us, brought us out of our stupor. "Susie!" shouted Tabitha. Before the rest of us could do anything, Tabitha ran over to the open door of the house after Susie, who was already inside. William and I stood in a panic, unsure of what to do. "We have to follow them," said William. I nodded, and without saying another word, we both gingerly walked towards the house. As we neared, I noticed just how thunderous the house was. It was unlike any other in the neighborhood. It didn't belong. It didn't look lived in. Dust and cobwebs adorned the door and front windows. The windows themselves were so dark and impenetrable, as if the darkness within sucked away any and all light that touched it, akin to a black hole. A chill traveled down my spine, and I suddenly realized we really shouldn't go inside. It was too late, though. William had already entered. The house inside was so cataclysmic, so the lack of light cast no shadow. I couldn't see or hear anyone, let alone my friends. I hovered on the steps of the house in front of the door, willing myself to step inside. The fear that coursed through my body made my limbs immovable, rigid. I called out William's name. My voice was so small, so quiet. The dimness inside swallowed it whole. I stepped inside and found myself in a dimly lit room, which didn't make any sense. From the outside, the house had no light, but as soon as you stepped in, you could suddenly see. I couldn't see any light bulbs or anything that would indicate a source of light, but wherever I turned my head, I could see so clearly. I turned around, and what I saw, I couldn't explain. It was pitch black outside, the same darkness that welcomed me before I stepped into the house. I couldn't see our street, nor any of the neighboring houses. What the fuck was this? The interior of the house was pristine, lived in. I couldn't see a single speck of dirt. I looked around, fucking terrified. I couldn't see William. Where the fuck was he? William? I called out. My voice echoed around the house, reverberating off the walls. I noticed then how strange the wallpaper was here. Mesmerized, I looked closer. Upon closer inspection, I saw faces. So many faces. Expressions of fear, torture, and utter despair graced their features. The longer you looked, the more they moved, shifted, and morphed. Thousands of them. I heard a shuffling right underneath my feet. I looked down, and that was when I saw the mouth. It was ajar, as if lamenting a loss, and teeth chattered continuously. I could hear teeth hitting teeth. It had no face. I ran for the stairs, but they were no longer there. The house changed somehow. It looked so different. There was no second floor. I ran to one of the different rooms, hoping to find either William, Susie, or Tabitha, but I couldn't open any of the doors. I tried to leave, but 1,000 faceless mouths lined the front door, the teeth sharp, jaws snapping. There was nowhere else to go. I think I stood there for about 5 minutes, but it could have been longer. I couldn't say. All of a sudden, I heard a wail, a fucking piercing scream that chilled my blood. That was when one of the doors I tried earlier opened. I watched closer. I didn't want to, but I did. I heard a squelching noise as I neared, as if someone was slicing wet meat. Then I heard chewing, along with a disgusting slurping sound that made my skin crawl, like someone was drinking something thick through a paper straw. I looked inside, and that was when I saw Susie. She was covered in blood. The body of Tabitha lay at her feet, skinned with all her flesh glistening underneath. Her mouth was gone, carved out with perfect precision. I realized then where all the mouths came from by the front door. Susie was chewing and gnawing at a piece of unidentified flesh, her eyes pitch black and her face unrecognizable. "Susie?" I whispered. Her obnoxious chomping suddenly ceased, and she looked at me, letting out the most terrifying scream I have ever heard. It was low, guttural, and deep, like someone had shredded her vocal cords. Then she fucking ran at me. Thinking fast, I ran and shut the door behind me. I could hear Susie scratching at the wooden door with her fingernails, banging at it, trying to get out. I wanted so desperately to get out of this house. I didn't know what had happened to Susie, but she was no longer human. Tabitha was dead, and I didn't know what had happened to William. I saw the front door. It was open this time, and I could see the outside. But the gaping mouths on the floor had tripled in size. I knew if I tried, they would consume me. I tried to break the windows using anything I could find, but they just wouldn't shatter. I was stuck there, with no way out. It's been a few days now, and I still can't get out. The mouths have been multiplying each day, and they get closer and closer to me. I know I don't have long. Their teeth have grown in size too, getting sharper and sharper. I can still hear Susie, and I think there's someone else in there with her. They both scratch and claw at the door, trying to get to me. I can hear the hunger they feel. A door just flown off its hinges. It's Susie. And the thing is monstrous, tall, gangly, and naked. It held Susie's hand and stroked her hair as they both walked towards me. Both of their mouths open impossibly wide. All I can see is blackness and teeth.